Who is Tate Mayfairs?
The greatest professional wrestler to ever walk planet Earth. A man who has wrestled on 17 countries for the biggest companies including WWE, AEW and Noah. A man who is currently the most legitimate world heavyweight champion in professional wrestling today, holding it for over 1,000 days. I don't have a choice. Because of having a working class upbringing, there is no wealth to draw upon, no family trade to move into. With a natural ability towards fighting, that is my pathway out. It's because I hate growing up poor. It's because I hate being in other people's shadows. The only thing I had that made me better or I excelled in was being angry and being violent. I probably lost myself again. I took many shortcuts. I hit people in the face with brass knuckles. I cheated. I lied. I betrayed people. But I have lost myself in the process. I have lost my friend and mentor. I lost my wife at the time. I was shot and left for dead, and people cheered. My life is now in a situation where it's profitable for me to be a scumbag. It's beneficial for my existence to be disliked. I'd rather them hate me sometimes than not care about me at all. I'm scared almost that if I become good or honest or true, I will lose my championships, I will lose my income. The only peace you can have is in God and is in stillness. My greatest form that I could ever make would be like dirty rags to God.
Is it all worth it?
I can't answer. I don't know.
What happens when your greatest strength becomes the very thing standing between you and the man you want to become? Welcome to the series where I step into something I call the Max Moody Lens, a more unfiltered, expressive way of questioning identity, performance, and meaning. It's not a different person, but rather a different way of seeing things. I'm exploring the psychology of professional wrestlers, specifically the place between the character they present and the person behind it. In this episode, I'm joined by Tate Mayfairs, a man caught between the person he's becoming and the character the world has come to know. If you enjoyed this one, support the mission by subscribing and leaving a review. It helps these conversations reach more men who are becoming more self-led, building a meaningful life and growing into the man they know they're capable of becoming. For this one, I'm Max Moody, and this is the Growth Voyage podcast. Enjoy. Okay, the red light is on.
It is on. The red light is on. There's a couple of them.
Tate, welcome to the lounge.
Yeah, thank you. My manager has had me do a bit of a media tour. I've ended up at quite a few places. Most begrudgingly, I've had an interview with my longtime rival, Simon Miller. But even that is less odd than where I am now. Can you explain what's going on here?
What we're doing today, we're diving into something I call the Max Moody Lens.
Max Moody Lens.
With that in mind, let's dive in. Just relax.
All right. Okay. I can. Gracias. What's up, Max? What's going on? How are your lenses? They are a little bit, there's quite a few gaps in your lenses.
Yeah.
Are you aware?
It's symbolic,
Okay.
you see, because I like to see the gaps in my guests. I like to crack them open. I like to see what's missing or what's out there, what's there ready to come out. So with that in mind, I just want to know, who is Tate Mayfairs?
Everybody knows, as a simple Google search, the greatest professional wrestler to ever walk planet Earth. A man who has wrestled on 17 countries, 4 continents, on television on 3 of them for the biggest companies including WWE, AEW and Noah. A man who is currently the most legitimate world heavyweight champion in professional wrestling today, holding it for over 1,000 days. Again, defending it on over 3 continents, 13 countries. Quite simply, as I said, the greatest professional wrestler to ever walk planet Earth.
Is that self-proclaimed, is it?
It's available via Google search. It's available by many people's, proclamation.
Yeah, we can go with proclamation.
Good, thank you.
Let's dive into that then. That's a bold statement, and no doubt you've got the accolades to support such a claim. Where does that come from? Where does this journey lead you to? I mean, that was your response to who is Tate Mayfairs. A very impressive CV. But without the CV, without the accolades, who is Tate Mayfairs?
Without one's accolades. See, that's the thing, is many people, they say, when you introduce yourself to someone, you say, what's your name? And normally say, what do you do? Right? That's normally one of the most commonly used metric to determine who someone is, isn't it? So if I were to say I'm a professional wrestler, I feel like that would be not enough information, because I'm not just any professional wrestler. I'm the greatest to ever walk planet Earth. But you want deeper than that, right? You want more than a wrestler. You want to understand, I'm getting through this gaze and this aura. You want to know the essence of my being?
Yeah, I mean, the way I like to look at things is, right, the material stuff. I think it's all very, very good, very impressive, very cool. And I respect anyone with a CV like your own. But what I want to know is, well, what else is there? Because I'm not into all the material stuff.
Right.
I see through it.
Okay.
And that's not a comment on you. I see through the accolades. So
yeah, I'm much similar, to be honest with you, in many degrees. I can get caught up in the material. You can all get lost in the material. But I understand what you're getting at. But it's almost an impossible question, isn't it? Because I could tell you my name. I could tell you I was born and raised in West London. I could tell you, does that define who I am? To a degree. I could tell you that I was born to a working class family of two parents who met on the dole. Does that tell you who I am? Well, no, to a degree. I could tell you that I come from a family of fighters, that my dad was a 3rd Dan black and white martial artist, across many different things. I could tell you I'm a man who's in high demand, whose phone is pinging off right now. I could tell you something about me, but as I said, back to the family. My great-grandfathers were bare-knuckle boxers. My both grandfathers, boxers. Does that define who I am? No, that's a history of a lineage. How can I tell you who I am? Other than material things, places, economics, experiences. Who is anyone but a collection of memories, ideas, materials, and experiences?
Well, with that in mind, I want to just dissect what you just said there. I mean, there were quite a few different elements, quite a few different things we can play around with there. In terms of the playing around, I want to have a look, dissect a little bit in terms of this lineage.
Okay, yeah.
So to speak. So you've got this lineage there, almost alluding to the idea that you were destined to be some type of fighter or performer to a degree. And then you've talked about working class backgrounds in terms of your parents. So does that place quite a lot of pressure on you then to not only honour the legacy of your grandparents, but then also to make the family proud, to become great, so to speak? Was that placed upon you? Was that your destiny? Is that something you decided for yourself, or was that chosen for you by family or otherwise?
I would say by otherwise. I would say I don't have a choice. I would say because of having a working class upbringing, there is no wealth to draw upon, no family trait to move into, no guidance in any direction of anywhere else or anything to do. With a natural ability towards fighting, that is my pathway out of working class situation. That's the only thing I got. It's the greatest gift God gave me. It's a blessing and a curse, and I'm utilizing it to get that. Now, there are many people who are fighters and they just fight. They get in the scrap down the pub. They do a couple of judo tournaments, to scratch the itch. They do what they do. But for me, I'm aware that I must attain greatness to get to the other level, to break through barriers in situations. Wouldn't you say?
I would say, or you would say. On that note, that drive, that pursuit of greatness, then, where does that really come from? What were the drivers? I mean, we talk about kind of positive drivers, making a difference on the world, inspiring people, and maybe there's doing something for yourself, and there is that lineage. But then there's also other drivers as well. Perhaps we were told that we're a bit of a loser as a kid, or we wouldn't amount to anything. There's perhaps darker energies there. So what combination makes up your drive?
Max, I want to tell you, especially in front of the cameras, and there's definitely parts of it, I want to tell you, I want to be an inspiration in the world. I want to lead other people in darker situations or similar situations and upbringings. I want to give them hope. I want to show them a guide rope as a way out. I want people to see me and see confidence and see something that they can embody. I want to tell you all of those things, and it is true to an element. And I know that it could be a real thing that could happen, and that would be lovely. But at its very, very core, I'll be honest with you, it's because I hate growing up poor. It's because I hate being in other people's shadows, hate it being looked down upon. And the only thing I had that made me better, or I excelled in, was being angry and being violent and being driven towards being better than other people.
Let's dive into that. Right, you talk about sort of anger there, and it seems like you've transmuted that energy into something great, right? Or the pursuit of greatness, and that's what you did with that. But was that always the case? I just want to dive into these details. I mean, was there a place where that anger was perhaps directed to other people, to yourself, where perhaps that energy had nowhere to go? Talk to me about
that. Was there a time where the energy wasn't directed towards greatness? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I mean, it seems clear to me. Like, you had that driving force, and you could push all that energy into becoming great, into being an example for other people, to proving to yourself that yes, you can do better in the world. But before you're shown that path, I can only imagine that had to be expressed somehow. Or was the path always there for you?
I found wrestling when I was very young, probably found it when I was about 6 or 7 years old. Kind of immediately tapped into something and hooked, triggered something in me that showed me that was the direction. Yeah, I probably was angry at the world and at myself before that, for sure. I will say I'm a changing man. I will say that over time, over countless destructions of things, as everyone has been well documented in the world of wrestling, that I am running out of steam on anger. Not that I don't have reason to be anymore. But after you achieve so much success, as we've noted at the top, and you are still at war with yourself and your surroundings, and the success doesn't bring you peace, you look in other directions. And as you find other answers, you become lost again.
Was that an accurate reflection of your journey? Would you say you had this drive, you were done with being poor, you wanted to make something of yourself, and so your idea of a better life, perhaps it was an emotion you were chasing. What was that exact state you were looking for, and at what point did you realize, oh, that's not the answer? Because it sounds like that was actually your biggest driving force.
Yeah. At what point was what?
At what point did you realize that this ambition, this desire to be better, to become greatness, wasn't the answer? Or do you still think it is?
I might need some more time on that. Ultimately, the only peace you can have, I have found, is in God and is in stillness. And God doesn't care about accolades of the material realm. And they say, do not store up your treasures here on earth, but store them up in heaven where you will go next, if you are fortunate enough to get there. God knows I've done some things that are not. They're going to make it a little harder. But with all that said and done, or all that put aside rather, what am I to do with my time here? We live in the Western world, which is full of materialism. There's high cost on the price of living. Do I hand everything in and go up the foothills of a mountain and trade in life for a waiting room to pray and eat porridge 24/7? Is that what I'm to do to avoid this continual cycle of consummation? Or participate in the world? Now, by participating in the world, we've already alluded to the fact that the only thing I have to contribute is fighting. And at some point, I will age and my body will give up. And in the world of fighting, it becomes very dangerous to change your driving force or factor. So if I remove my driving force of the ego and of anger, I leave myself very vulnerable. to financial and physical damage. I am stuck. Wouldn't you say?
Well, it's certainly an interesting point, because I've always thought, actually, because we are in this 3D world, and I've battled with this idea of, like, to another degree, being humble. You know, and I've always thought, okay, right, just be humble. That was a belief I grew up with. It was like, yeah, be humble. Yeah, don't show off, don't be loud, don't, you know, boast your achievements or whatever. But then over time, I've come to the conclusion that this is actually a very important part of succeeding in this world, is actually having a bigger ego. And I think, well, for me, my standpoint now has been, well, go ahead, have a big ego, right? Become confident, but then just be humble before God.
Right.
And that's something that you've kind of alluded to there. You've reached that conclusion, but then find yourself, still in this kind of in between. It's like, well, what do we do? What do we do here while we're in this world? I do want to rewind though.
Okay, take us back.
Right, because I noticed you kind of gone on this journey, and I'm with you on the journey.
Aren't we all?
But I do just want to rewind back before we keep going forward. You said that peace can only come from God.
Mm-hmm.
How did you reach that conclusion?
I was once in a world of chaos. Even. I was going to say a world of chaos, but you could always say it's always there to some extent if you walk through life and do this. But I was in a space, and I was sent a letter. It was actually a brochure or pamphlet in an envelope. I was sent it one morning by my nan, who never sends anything in the post, and it said, it was a little pamphlet, brochure thing, a little flyer thing rather, and it had the poem on it called Footprints in the Sand, which if you haven't heard, you're reacting like you have.
Oh, it's a banger.
He says that this man was looking back over his life, and he sees it as a walk along a beach. He sees that there are two sets of footprints in the sand. But in the hardest times of his life, there was only one. He turns around to God and he says, God, why? Why in the hardest times of my life were you not there? There is only one set of footprints. And God replies, my son, it's because I was carrying you. Wow. That's lovely. But nonetheless, very sweet, touching, but it does not resolve anything for me. And I put it aside. I went ahead with my day. And as I was later coming back home from my day, I was walking through a park and I felt something, like not strongly, but like I felt like not like a being, but I felt something hit me in the back between the shoulders. And I kind of left my body and I sort of saw myself, had an out-of-body experience. I was seeing myself from above. And it kept going up and up and up till I saw myself in this park, and then I saw myself in the town, and then I saw myself in all of London, I saw myself in all of England, and again, saw myself in Europe, I saw myself in the globe. So it kept zooming out until I saw just this pinprick. Like I could feel the presence and the visibility of me as this tiny little thing inside of the galaxy. But I could feel God. It was almost from God's perspective of how he saw me inside all of the mass of the universe, and that I was still important to him. But I was also insignificant in the grand mass of everything. My problems in my life were so insignificant in the grand mass of things, but God still saw me and had an importance on me. And I came back to my body, and it felt like there was warm water running through my body. It was like my insides felt like warm liquid just flowing through my body. The colours turned up. Like it was nice and bright. My heart raced. My breathing was different. There was some kind of odd experience, but I felt a message. And from that moment, for I felt a connection to what people would call the Holy Spirit. I would ask questions and I would hear a clearer answer in peace. I would feel the hairs on my arms and my neck and my back like stand up to signify certain directions or answers to questions, or just a reassurance that it was there. It turns out that at that very moment I walked through that park, I experienced that thing, that my nan was the other side of London, in a church group prayer meeting, and they were all praying for me at that very moment in time. So from then I knew there was a God, and God was real, and God saw me, and I didn't quite understand how or why or how to connect or what to do about it. And I'm not saying that it's not like me saying I'm the greatest professional wrestler to ever walk planet Earth. I am not saying that I am a prophet or a chosen one or anything special. I'm just saying I had a beautiful experience and I feel a connection to the Holy Spirit since then for many years. And in that connection and in that pursuit of finding Him and connecting with God deeper and knowing it more, I have found it is the only thing that has brought me peace. I have tried to travel the world. I have tried to travel the outer dimensions through chemicals, substances, through meditation, peacefulness. I've tried different diets. I've tried different religions. I've studied them all. I've studied law of attraction. I've studied manifestation. I've looked deeply into quantum mechanics. Many of these things. But one day, I prayed after years and years, probably 17 more years of exploration. I prayed. I noticed that Jesus kept popping up, and I said, if Jesus is truly God, then I don't want to be wrong, and I don't want to worship a false idol. So, if He is true, make it undeniable to me. If not, then just carry on. And 1 year later to the date of that prayer, it was made undeniable to me. And I felt a great peace, and I felt a great understanding. And that's the only thing that has brought me peace.
Well, that is very powerful. Very powerful. In fact, it's one of those experiences, by the sound of it, that even though you've described it just there, is you can only really feel it and understand it once you've experienced it.
Of course, yourself. Yeah, of course. Yeah, because I had heard similar things before. I thought, sounds good. Good for you. Maybe you're crazy.
So, I mean, clearly your grandma was like an angel, had a big influence there in some degree. Was there always a kind of curiosity before that moment? Because I'm intrigued to hear, was there like because I imagine even if you are, for lack of a better term, closed off to this sort of stuff, I imagine to experience this, you've maybe got to have even the slightest bit of openness to it or curiosity. So did this type of thing really cross your mind beforehand? I know you've alluded to like level, so to speak, of understanding manifestation and quantum mechanics and all this other stuff. But do you feel like, I mean, you must have been, but did you feel like you're waiting for that exact moment? Is that what you were really going for?
The moment with Christ? I guess before encountering what I would say is encountering the Holy Spirit, that moment in the park, the group prayer, I did go to a Church of England primary school. We were, under 10 years old, and so we'd be around the stories and such. I would occasionally go to my grandparents and we'd go to church, but my parents didn't go. I wasn't baptized. It wasn't in my life or family or culture, surroundings, my friends, etc. It wasn't something that I was around, right? other than that, and then what you're saying is about thereafter, as I'm exploring all of these different things, like went to church a couple of times, listening to worship music a couple of times, but I also went to ashrams in India. I also went to the synagogue. I also went to the mosque. I also read the Quran. I read the Torah. I read the Old Testament. I read ancient African religious texts, things, deities like Oshan and Shango. I looked at all of it. Yeah. And to be honest, I actually had quite a bit of success with, what people would call this law of attraction and this manifestation sort of stuff as well. Like, I was quite, I guess, in a way, for a period of time, content in just, okay, there's God. That's good enough for me. I can fill my pockets. But something was missing.
This something that was missing then.
Yeah.
Seems like that became quite clear to you as time went on. Is that what kind of inspired this search? There was this feeling of like, hang on, there must be something more to this lifetime.
I guess it's the weight of doing everything on your own. I think we're all carrying a lot of weight and a lot of responsibility that we might not need to. Caring about things that may not be important.
Is there then a bit of a clash, so to speak, in terms of like the trajectory that you went on, to this pursuit of greatness, to proving something to the world, to yourself, perhaps even, to then going on this journey? Is there a clash?
A clash? Yeah. Of course. Yeah, of course. And I'm trying to figure it out. What do I do? What do I do that I got so far? Not everything I wanted, but let's say 90% of what I wanted. I don't know. But it's worthless. But I can't see anything more worthwhile here on Earth.
Interesting. So even though you see how in the grand scheme of things, none of the stuff really means anything,
Nothing.
You may as well have it or go after it because that's all there is. Like, you're kind of playing the game.
If you're playing a video game, let's say I don't know, maybe San Andreas is or Grand Theft Auto is a bad idea because of, or maybe it's a good one. I don't know. What do you do? You know that it's pointless. You know that playing this game is pointless, and you know that eventually you're going to turn the console off. The character is going to cease to exist. Or even if you try to go on forever, the machine itself would break. And none of it means anything. You can't take any achievements you've won on there, how much money you've got on cars. You can't take it out of the machine. You can't take it out of the screen. It doesn't mean anything. But meanwhile, you're stuck in a situation where you are in a room with nothing to do but to play the game. What do? Do you just aimlessly walk around? Or do you find missions to do? Hey, even if you go up to another character in there and somehow hack it so that you could tell it, this isn't real, the chances are it will attack you or shut you down. Or ignore you. What do you do with this? What do you do with this perplexing situation? You're in a place where nothing matters. Nothing matters. But to experience it, you could say, well, I don't know.
Because it sounds to me we could be drifting off into nihilism a little bit.
It could be.
Although some would...
But that sounds kind of dark and sad, doesn't it? That can't be the joy that God gave us. So that can't be the answer. And you could say, well, what could you say?
Well, it'd be interesting to dive into all of this sense of like meaninglessness. Meaninglessness?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a word? Meaninglessness.
We can go with it. They'll get it.
Meaninglessness. Yeah, you get the picture. For you, I presume you had to experience that to then come to this realization now. So you still had to go through that journey yourself to then discover it. You can't come up with that realization straight away. You had to achieve a decent amount of your goals to then go, okay, new realization, so to speak.
I would say you can fall into the same tricks again, because I think I had it actually many years ago. I actually did a little story. Before I came, so I was in wrestling when I was a young kid. And then I actually went away because there wasn't a scene in the UK. I started wrestling when I was like 13. There wasn't a scene in the UK. There wasn't anything happening here. I went and did music. Had a success in music, actually. Played around Europe. Had a management deal or two. Had a couple of songs on YouTube, on Spotify. Got a song that was BBC introducing Song of the Week. But, yeah, my heart was in wrestling. And I came back to wrestling. Oh, yeah. And at that point where I came back to wrestling, that's where I was going. I remember one time I had long hair, it was about your length, maybe a bit longer. And I was at a festival, as I had been frequenting at the time. Got to play at Glastonbury a couple of times. And I noticed we were sat in a circle. We were all talking about these kinds of things, the life, the roles here, the responsibilities here, how to be virtuous and good. But I noticed the hypocrisy of the fact that people were like, oh, you should be giving and you should be kind and you should do this. But then they would, in the very next breath, ask for this, and then hide their own and not give. I saw these things. Now everybody has sin and everyone has fault, and that's fine. And the other thing I saw was that we were all agreeing about things, but no one was fit enough to stand on a platform or at a table to actually impact anything outside of that campfire or those types of settings. So this information and this way of living or understanding isn't going any further, and it's not impacting anything grander. So I also noticed that with long hair, when I try and talk to people like this in a certain way, it was not received with it was not received well. It was, of course you would think or say that. So I cut my hair right off, donated it to charity. There's Kids for Wigs. And I embarked on a side of myself that was true. There was a part of me that wants to live a good life and a fancy life, a successful life. But I was hoping that in doing that and getting to a place of influence and power and respectability, that then I'd be able to say these things and sit at these tables to make a change and it would have a natural impact. But yes, I probably lost myself again. I probably lost myself to trying to appear presentable enough that I lost myself to the material realm of that. I probably lost myself to trying to get enough success to be able to do that, that I made so many mistakes to cut off people along the way that maybe I focused too much on the success that I lost myself in the process. And it, again, has been documented. You can see I took many shortcuts. I hit people in the face with brass knuckles. I cheated. I lied. I betrayed people. But I did it. If you go on Google, I'm the greatest professional wrestler to ever walk planet Earth. Wrestled on 4 continents. Wrestled on 17 countries. Wrestled on television, 3 continents. Wrestled for Noah. Wrestled for AEW. Wrestled for WWE. The most legitimate world champion in professional wrestling today for over 1,000 days. I did it, but I have lost myself in the process. I have lost my friend and mentor, Sid Scala. We fell out entirely. He doesn't want to talk to me anymore. I lost my friend and mentor, Eddie Dennis. I retired him. He quit the business. I lost my friend, James Ellis. I lost my wife at the time, Classy Karen Sessions Martina. I was shot and left for dead, and people cheered. But I've still got my world championship. And no one wants to listen to what I've got to say.
It sounds to me like the lines are quite blurred here.
How so?
Well, we've talked about the wrestling, the antics going on there. Although it's not just in the ring, is it? Where you seem to have lost everything. It seems to be outside of the ring as well. My question to you is it all worth it? Is this pursuit of greatness, is this pursuit of getting to the top, is it all worth it?
I can't answer. I don't know. That's where I am too. I don't know. Would it have been better if I stayed at the campfire and repeated things round and round and round with people and watched them be hypocritical? Probably not. I wasn't satisfied there either.
Talk about losing yourself quite a few times now. Do you think one can truly learn lessons? Or do you think sometimes lessons have to be learnt over and over again?
Yeah.
How do you not just learn the lessons, but get back on the straight and narrow? And what is that battle like day to day? How much of a battle is it?
I'd say it's relentless. And it's sometimes I am angry at the repeated beating of life, and other times I smile in the pain because I know I'm being refined. I would not say that I make the exact same mistakes to the same degree. So, let's say, I don't know if you can see, but there's guitars around this room. Now, let's say I go to play a chord, okay? But one of my fingers is touching one of the other strings. And it might sound bad. And I'm like, over time, correcting and correcting and correcting and correcting and correcting and failing and failing and failing, I might be able to get that finger further and further away from it, cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, like tighter onto the bits where it's meant to be, not touching any other strings, strumming with the perfect technique, not too hard, not too soft, just and I might just get it, but it requires failing to play that chord. It's the same chord. I'm failing to play it again and again and again and again, and only by being aware of failing am I able to correct it. Some people play a bad chord forever, and they think it sounds great.
I suppose the key is to be aware of the bad chord in the first place.
I'd guess so, yeah. And sometimes we're not aware. Sometimes it needs to be slapped over our head. That's okay.
Have you been slapped over the head recently?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm not just talking about the physical sense. I'm saying...
Oh, I know what you're saying.
I know we're on a similar wavelength.
Yeah, of course.
Just for the people who are still with us.
I'd say every week. Maybe every day. Maybe that's because I humbled myself to God. Maybe because I said, God, I want to know who you want me to be. I want to be renewed. I want to see myself through your eyes. I want to be renewed in you, and I want to become more like you. And he's not going to click his fingers and all of a sudden I'm Superman, I'm Jesus Christ in the flesh. That's impossible. I am still a man. I'm still going to fail no matter how hard I try. But I think through the refining process, I can get closer to being like Christ. But I'm a long way off. I'm a long way off.
Is that, do you think, the goal for Christians, would you say? Is it to exhibit that perhaps discernment of Jesus, would you say? Is that, I mean, you've alluded to the idea that perhaps there is no meaning in this lifetime, but does that create a new meaning for you? Is it to then see how far you can develop your soul in this lifetime and get closer to that ideal? Or does that transcend meaning in and of itself?
There's a couple questions there. Let's start with, is that what Christians want, etc.? Now, I would say I'm a Christian because I read the Bible, I believe the Bible, I believe in Christ, and I follow Christ. And I attend a church. But obviously, Christianity is a religion, and it's a man-made. That, you shouldn't trust man. It will fail you. And there is problems sometimes with religion. So, and there is, people are individuals. So I cannot speak for all individual Christians. This is not fair or true. For me, I would say, yes, truly, in its heart and in its core, the goal would be to be Christ-like. And ironically, I laugh at myself for the young kid who wanted to feel important and successful. And when I asked to become greatness, I want to be the greatest. Maybe he's answering it, and maybe I'm pursuing it. But maybe he's stripping away what I first identified it as, because I was of the world and I saw at the world at the time, greatness was presented as The Rock, as James Bond, as this rock star, this famous person, this champion, Muhammad Ali, Frank Sinatra. But it's not true, is it? Really, it's the only, if you look at history, maybe it was the geezer who gave up his life hanging on a cross. Maybe, ironically, even though we're told it's not, maybe that is greatness. The only greatness, the true greatness. When it's still talking about him and praising him 2,000 years later, is there anyone who's impacted the world any more than that? Is there anyone whose name has such a bigger effect on the world than that? No one ever. But is that a scary thought? Are you willing to die for the world? Are you willing to die to yourself? Are you willing to be such an anomaly that you're weird, that you're hated, but hated for the right reasons?
Oh, there's something so powerful about that, which I love. I just love, and we've kind of discussed a little bit of this stuff already, but man, when I hear those stories, and I'm just like, there's so much power in that authenticity and speaking your mind and holding true to yourself. Like, there is something so powerful about that. And that for me just transcends all this stuff like celebrity culture. I've never really understood it. It doesn't, again, I could go on a whole rabbit hole down there. We'll keep things somewhat focused. But on this subject, then there seems to be a real pull for you now, right, towards this new type of greatness, and I love that you've alluded to the idea of this sense of not everything perhaps is as great as they once seemed. So to speak. So with this whole Tateness is greatness, would you say that whole definition has been redefined, or has it been completely destroyed? Are you, as an identity, dead?
I guess it depends which identity we're talking about. Maybe Tateness is greatness was always about a proclamation in, how do I say this? Maybe it was like meant to be like a manifestation, you know? If I say Tateness is greatness and I focus on greatness, other people will believe it because let's be honest, the majority of people are very stupid and they repeat what they're told and they believe what they're told. And I partly knew that when I come up with it because I knew that other people would accept it and that would make it truer. Because if other people would accept it, if we're in reality is based on perception. If we were in a room and there's 5 people and 3 people of the 5 agree that I am the greatest of all time, then I'm the greatest of all time. You know what I mean? So by suggesting and by what would you say, conditioning them, they would accept it. Also, the same thing works to me. There's a thing called neuro-linguistic programming, where your words do this, and there's so many examples of it. What you say about yourself, you will believe. I've noticed some fantastical things happen from what we say about our wealth, our health, our happiness, our circumstances, our opportunities. There's a balance that's got to be made. We cannot glorify yourself or deify yourself because you will die and you will have nowhere to go. You must submit yourself to God. I don't know what I'm saying. Let's come back slightly. Tateness is greatness. That's why, perhaps, that I come up with it initially. I believe I could become as great as I want to become, and I could become pretty close to greatness if I'm wise and am humble and I'm consistent. But even my greatest form that I could ever make would be like dirty rags to God, and I would be worth nothing. And I could only be saved by Jesus. But would it be worthwhile doing? I think so. Seems better than not. And like I said, yeah, if it inspires someone else to do it and gets them out of a path where they go in the other direction, because the opposite of greatness would be what? Destruction. Then that would be good. But it's important to, so I'm being honest, it's important to not self-grandize on that way, on that path. I wouldn't, if I'm talking truly, I wouldn't want people to actually deify me and think that I am actually greatness, true greatness. Which is hard to say when I have a full-blown business based off the fact that Tateness is greatness. But if you're asking me truly, if I'm on the edge of heaven and hell, I'm going to say, no, I don't want to be deified. That might hurt my wallet. But it's the truth. And my wallet is insignificant compared to my soul. Does that make sense?
Certainly does, brother. Just by you saying that, it appears to me that you are willing to surrender, shall we say. There's a part of you, would you say there's a part of you?
There's definitely a part of me. Go on, carry on.
That you're ready to leave behind. Is there a part of you that you need to let go of, but you're resisting it to become a greater version of yourself? But greater in terms of the true definition of great?
Here's the complex. We live in a world where money controls it, okay? I have built a legacy around the world of being the bad guy, of being disliked. And it pays for my life, my lifestyle, and not just the glorious things, the basic needs, is entirely based on that. People will bring me in. People will fly me across continents because they want someone who everybody hates to face the guy that they are trying to build, who everybody loves. My life is now in a situation where it's profitable for me to be a scumbag. It's beneficial for my existence to be disliked. And sometimes I now, in the last year or two, have been doing things to make people hate me. Not because I want to, or because it's my nature, or that I want to even hurt anyone's feelings, but just out of a survival thing of, I need to pay rent. I'm scared almost that if I become good or honest or true about who I am or who I want to become or my nature, that people won't care anymore. And I will I will lose my championships, I will lose my income. Maybe everything, but maybe that's what is necessary. Am I there yet? I'm close, but I'm not there.
Will you know when you're ready to make that final step? Or could you be ready now, but you're resisting the truth?
Yeah, maybe the latter.
And you mentioned there's a fear, perhaps, of letting go of your income. But then, with this relationship with God that you've got, is there anything to fear at all?
That's a great point. Technically, no. Technically, no.
And it's very interesting. You said that this current expression of your character, you're alluding to the idea that it wasn't authentic, so to speak. But they say that the best performances come from a place of authenticity or turning the dial up, so to speak. By 10. So you telling me that it's not really you doesn't really equate to the reality that we're seeing. So I want to dive into
Talk it through that, yeah. Like I said, I think I think I lost myself along the way. I think there's always been a beast inside of me. Hence the onset early anger and the natural family gift in fighting. That beast has always been in there, right? So, yes, and I did, because I grew up working class and lacking, that I did desire the material things. All of that is part of who I am and is a driving thing, right? So it was very authentic. It was very real. But I'm guessing after time, growing, learning, experiencing success and loss, I've evolved and I've changed as a human and as a man. Yeah. But that old me isn't entirely dead. So it still exists. What I'm saying about doing things that I now don't want to do, I'm saying that there was a side of myself 2 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever, that would do that without thinking, and I enjoyed it. And now I think that sometimes I'm forcing myself to do things.
So you're starting to feel the tension.
Yeah. Does that make sense? Does it clear to you? Crystal.
Well, you said, is it clear?
Mm-hmm.
So I said,
crystal clear.
What I'd like to ask you then is your character, as you suggested, he's used very often in a way to make your opponent more likable, to give someone to cheer for by having you as the opposition, so to speak.
Yeah.
Could you argue that heelish nature of your persona is aligned? Because sometimes the most important and loving figures in history have been the most hated, Jesus Christ being an example of that. So is there perhaps an element of, you might be hated by many, but so was your biggest inspiration?
Yeah, potentially, yes. Although, if I'm honest, he was hated for being righteous and for being good. And I have not been good. And the times that I intentionally do things to make people hate me is because I know that they're wrong.
You know that who's wrong?
I'm wrong.
Oh, you know that you're in the wrong?
Yeah, I'm in the wrong, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's not right to sneak a pair of brass knuckles into the ring and hit a guy in the face. It's actually criminal. But
could you twist it, perhaps? Could you then twist it to say, well, because your end goal is to perhaps spread a message to people, show people that, I can see it already. I can see the closing scene, the retirement. I can see it already. This realization that this wasn't the answer. If that is your end goal, which is ultimately quite aligned with your faith and your belief system, could you then argue that by you doing things which are not so good now, it is aligned because you know that you have to do these things to then get to that endpoint where you're going to then inspire people with the right message? Or will it be too late by then? Is there a small argument to suggest that is a possibility, that while you are perhaps compromising your values in the short term, there is a greater payoff. Is it worth the risk?
I think that's the coping mechanism I used for years, because in my heart I was still a good person, you know, but I knew that what I was doing was questionable or wrong. But I argued that no, well, I'm doing this because it's going to get me the success I needed to have the platform, and you know, and like it's, you know, juice is worth the squeeze, you know, as they say, that it'll all wash out in the end. Yeah, like I say, I guess I'm running out of steam. Yeah. I remember I did a promo face to face with one of my biggest rivals, Rain Leverkusen, who's now Lizzie Rain on WWE NXT. And she had come back from injury and she fought me for the title, and I actually beat her, and I took advantage of her pre-existing injured leg. Then we were set to have another match for the title, and I made it a ladder match because I wanted to get in her head about having to climb up the ladder to get it. And I knew that, again, if I would injure her leg, then she couldn't just get lucky and beat me. She would have to climb up the ladder with her injured leg, and that would be quite difficult. And I wanted her to really think about that injury, and I wanted to really think about how I had beat her last time. And I really made a point of, when we were in that face-to-face, looking her in the eyes and speaking all of that fear and that doubt into her. And I remember her looking at me, tears welling up and spilling over her cheeks. And I held the championship and many others, and I held the power, I held the money. And in that time, it was justified because I will get to keep the championship, and I will get to keep the influence, and I'll get to keep the money, and that will lead. But in that moment, I remember inside of me, a little bit of me broke as I saw tears streaming down her face. And I'm looking at her and I'm telling her exactly what I need to say in order to break her. But actually, maybe I'm breaking myself.
When does it stop, Tate?
When does it stop?
Haven't you been broken enough already?
Maybe people would argue there's more. I'm already losing all my money in the divorce with Classy Karen session off Martina. I've already lost all my friends. I hate to say it, but the only thing I haven't lost is my championships. What do? Go out there and give myself over to a beating? Do I let a grown man, physical, trained fighter pummel me?
Well, earlier on in our conversation, you alluded to the idea that you will have to give this all up eventually, but now's not quite the right time. You're not quite ready to do that. And yet, speaking to you now, you aren't prepared to do that at all.
No.
And so, would it be fair to say that actually you're just going to let God do it for you? You're going to let God pull that away when it's the right time? We talk about free will. I believe we all have free will.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I think there comes a point where the world is showing you so much. You're being forced into a certain direction, and you have the free will whether to push against that or to surrender. Are you then alluding to the idea that you're going to continue down this destructive path until you have no other choice because you're not man enough to take that choice yourself?
I think so. You know, there's a book in the Bible. I might get this wrong, but I think it's Jonah. And a lot of people point at the story as being quite comical because they point at the last act of it, or one of the second act, where the geezer's stuck inside the belly of a fish for 3 days. Quite comical, really. Think about it logically today, in what we know. But essentially, the story has 3 parts to it. He's told to go to a town to preach about God. But this town is famous for beating and killing anyone who would speak about God. So he's terrified. And although God calls him, he immediately runs the other way. He runs as far away from the town that he's meant to go preach at as possible. He gets onto the first boat he can find and tries to sail away. And God creates a storm. And everybody on there of all these different faiths is called to call upon their God to make a sacrifice, or to, pray that if the storm would stop, because they are going to die. Their whole boat is going to sink. They know that, someone isn't right with God. Jonah offers up himself. He knows that it's him who hasn't answered God, and that he must make a sacrifice. He asks them to throw him overboard. Now, it's interesting that he asks them to throw him overboard, because even though he admits that he's in the wrong and he is the causation of this storm, he still wasn't willing to jump overboard or walk the plank, or, He said that they needed to throw him overboard. He was aware that it had to be what needed to happen, but he was still unwilling to really do the action himself. Now he's thrown overboard. Immediately the sea's calm. The people on the boat are safe. Jonah lands, gets eaten by a fish. He's now stuck inside this fish. He's talking with God. He's eventually spat out. The story goes on a few times, but with him eventually going to the city, he says the bare minimum and immediately leaves. He was told to stay, and he was told to say a bit more. He was told to stay. But he didn't. He said the bare minimum, and he got out of there and he watched from the hills. Anyway, sometimes I resonate with that. Yeah, maybe God's asking a lot of me. Maybe he's got a wonderful plan for me, but I am terrified and I'm doing the bare minimum. Or maybe I'm waiting for him to make it impossible for me to not do what he's telling me to do.
Well, it sounds like jumping overboard isn't quite an option for you right now. But it could very well be in the future. Where does that leave you then, and the legacy that you want to leave on the world? Your mission, everything that you've done, people following your work. Where does that leave you?
When I was a kid and I watched the wrestling, I wanted to be the good guy. I wanted to be the hero. I wanted to be the guy that inspired the young kid to stand up to the bully, to believe in himself, to improve his looks, his confidence, his stature, his skills. That the young man, equally, that the drug addict would turn his life around, and the troublemaker would turn his life around, the lazy person would put in the work. I wanted to do those things. That's why I said techniques is greatness. That's why on the journey I did. Maybe I've made some mistakes. Maybe I'm here now. I believe that God put me on that path to do that. I'd like it to be in wrestling. because I'm really good at it. Like we mentioned, I don't have any qualifications, degrees, trades, family businesses, anything to walk into. I have only been good at fighting and performing. What do I would hope, and also as like an artist and a performer, I feel like my body of work has got to be like a, you know, like a lesson, or like it's got to say something deeper. Good art is more than just a beautiful image. There's a depth to it that we can learn from, that can inspire us and change us and move us. I want people to look at my body of work and be inspired and moved and changed by it. And I hope that my story is one that you look at and say, that's what to do, not that's not what to do. Does that make sense?
Certainly does. Would that imply that you need that next chapter to fulfill this prophecy?
I'd say so. I'm scared that I am scared. I am scared of losing the championships. I am scared of losing my money. I am scared of nobody caring about me anymore. I'd rather them hate me sometimes than not care about me at all. Yeah, I'm scared of losing wrestling. I'm scared of losing my identity as a wrestler. Is there any other things you want to know about life? I feel like we're digging very much into my, whatever you would call it.
Well, that was my aim, to crack you open. Let us a bit inside what's really going on underneath the surface. We can dive into the closing traditions.
If you believe, yeah, sure, let's do that.
Well, I mean, unless there was something about life itself, a sense that there was something more to come out there, perhaps.
There's not anything specific I have in mind that I want to address, but I guess one thing that I guess I've experienced a lot of life. I have a lot of experiences and lessons. And I am a deep thinker. I'm a very reflective person. I'm very aware. And like I said, ultimately, I do want to leave something good for the world rather than keep this stuff for myself and die. But maybe that's something that I share once I'm willing to share the true identity of me first. Maybe.
The identity's got to match the message, so to speak.
Maybe. Or maybe it's a way to get me there. I don't know. But we can only go with what is in front of us. If there is no obvious path, we cannot force it. If you do not have an obvious question, then the question is not for now. But yeah.
Is there something that you wish everyone would know?
There's more reward for what you give than for what you get.
I like that a lot. We'll dive in to the closing traditions of the podcast. I must ask though.
Yeah.
Because you've mentioned there you're a very deep thinker, you're a very reflective person. And yet, when you go out there inside the wrestling ring, it's almost the antithesis to that. It's like, very like... yes.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes, I guess it kind of just ties in with our conversation about the clash of identities. Do you find that there's still elements of authenticity there? Would you say you're just a multi-dimensional being, perhaps, who can be deep and reflective, but also quick-witted and eccentric?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they definitely both exist. But maybe when I'm alone, it's only the deeper, reflective one. Maybe the other one's a mask, although it's my own mask. It's still natural, and it's still not having to think about it to do it. It's very natural, and it's there, and it's actually more comfortable than. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it kind of gets turned on when you want to turn it.
Yeah, and you know what? I like him. Sometimes I like him more than the real me. In fact, a lot of the time.
Is there a part of you that would want to access that side to you more so?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it might be easier to not think.
It's very interesting you say that, because I've kind of had this like a similar type of conclusion of myself, or like elements of my own self-discovery, because I'm like, again, quite a deep thinker, very reflective, quite introverted actually, which surprises quite a few people, but I am. And yet there's this podcast, and with yourself there is this performance, there is the wrestling, and I think you've alluded to something there. Actually, you don't need to put yourself in a box, so to speak. I am this way. It's like, no, I'm this way in certain environments, and then I'm outwardly this way in certain environments. Although you've also alluded to the idea that actually maybe this extension of yourself is really the person you want to live like the majority of the time. Is that an accurate thing to say?
I think we can we can put too much importance. People who are, let's say, deep thinkers, or let's say, quote unquote, like high IQ or intelligent or deep thinkers, yeah, we can put a bit too much weight of importance on that, I believe, because I have seen profound intelligence in people who are seemingly incredibly shallow and have nothing going on. I think it's one of the most hilarious things that there is. I wonder how much overrated language is, or thought is. You know, some of the greatest things I've ever achieved have completely bypassed thought or planning. In fact, they've been entirely based on heart and instincts. That I feel like sometimes my brain gets in my own way, it trips me up, it messes it up, it ruins it. And there's a great beauty in just the here and the now. And like I say, I've seen incredibly shallow and stupid people do amazing things, incredibly intelligent things, without even realizing they're doing it. Perhaps that's a better option. I've noticed that in IQ tests, in music, in performing, in fighting, in brain training apps, that when I bypass my mind, I'm far more intelligent. I'm more intelligent. When I do boxing training, when I'm fighting. When I'm truly in the zone, I'm not thinking at all. I understand something here before here. And in fact, I intentionally have to like focus on a spot or like a single thing in order to basically shut off anything coming in or out, to completely silence it. And that's when I achieve the best stuff. I'm able to see punches coming before they've even moved their body. Something bigger than us is happening where as they have the thought about which punch they want to throw. I already know it. Does that make sense? I can't make sense of it, but I know that it's real. I know that before they've even dropped a shoulder, before they've even shifted a foot, there have been times when I'm so tuned in that I know exactly what punch you're going to throw before you've even thought of it yourself. And I'm out of the way and I'm already in the next spot to hurt you. If I could get there all of the time, that would be really beautiful. That'd be really beautiful. And sometimes Tate Mayfairs, the here, ooh-hoo, the this is closer to that than the guy sat here pondering the deepness of existence.
Yeah, you've got no defense mechanisms in place, so to speak, or nothing getting in your way. It's just there. It's just out there.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me of a conversation I had with a chap called the Soul Doctor.
The Soul Doctor, great name.
Oliver Dolby. And I was like, oh yeah, like I love my meditation for like 20, 30 minutes. And I was like, oh, I kind of just want to stay there the whole day. He said, well, actually that can be the aim. It's like to live from that state rather than having to, because we live in such a busy world. Rather than having to dedicate a big amount of time to live from that state. And you've kind of alluded to that idea, which can do wonders for focus as well. And I think it's those moments, the more kind of present we can be, the more joy we can get out of these like smaller moments just by being there in it. I think that constitutes a happy life, meaningful life, however you want to call it.
Certainly, it's very effective, isn't it? Because it's 100% presence. It's 100% presence. The most successful businessman is said to also be the same thing, is that what the people who study them and have been around them say is that the difference between them and other people who are less successful is they act immediately. There is no plan it on the Tuesday at 2 p.m. It's done. It's done. It's done. And it's not about how good they do it. One of the things you can do when you're too intelligent, too thought out, is you can spend forever being a perfectionist and conjuring up, it's got to be this, and then it'd be this color gradient because of this historical person in history, and because of this and that, and these exact words, but this has a different perfect. You could spend hours, you could spend years with the most perfect thing, but in that time, the guy who just stupidly is just going this, yes, no, that one, this one, that one, is way more successful and happier than you because he just did it, So there's something about that. There's something that, I don't know, there's something to let go of there and live in that. I don't know exactly how, but
then at the same time, the reason why you have become so great at what you do is probably attention to the finer details, I imagine.
I'd say there's a bit of both. Exactly. There's definitely a lot of that. Is that focusing on the footwork here, the this, that, the meaning, this, the boom, 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 boom. But then with all of that preparation, it's then going out there and then living in the moment, being 100% present with the roots deep.
So the magic combination seems to be the ability to turn something on and off, and then the discernment of knowing when to use it, and when to use each switch.
Maybe deep preparation and understanding, and then turning it off and being present. Like you know what makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go into the closing traditions.
Okay.
First two, they're routine.
Okay.
They're asked every week.
Mm-hmm.
The third one is asked by a member of the Growth Voyage community.
The what Voyage?
The Growth Voyage.
Growth.
It's the name of the podcast.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thought you said something different.
What did you think I said?
We'll leave it. Yeah. Good.
First one, nice and simple.
Yeah.
Is song recommendation.
Oh. For what? For what situation? Any situation?
Could be something that means a lot to you. Could be something you listen to a lot of the time.
I don't know. I hate that because it feels like it defines you. Something quite smooth, quite nice. Talks about being the greatest, which has kind of been a theme here. It's a song by a rapper called Kane Casket with a C. Caine. Kane Casket. Stardust. It's good. Smooth. Nice. Greatness.
And it's quite clean. In terms of,
it's quite chill. In terms of language.
Well, in terms of vibrational.
Oh yeah,
stuff.
It's pretty smooth.
It's not demonic.
You could drink it. Oh yeah, I think so.
It is?
No, I don't think it's... No.
It's not...
No. I don't like that.
You don't like...
Anything beginning with D and ending with ick.
Sure.
It's a bit of an ick for me.
Yeah. Second one, is a book recommendation.
Well, I've been given this book here to check out. Wrestling for My Life, Shawn Michaels. That's going to be my next read. There's a book I really liked. It was a New York Times bestseller at one point by Richard Bach called One. It's quite cool. But I think, again, no book is more in-depth and teachable than the Bible. It's pretty classic.
Well, even if you're not religious or like deep into your faith, there's just so much gold in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Regardless of like what you want to at this point in your life, like believe, you could just, it's the greatest action film filled with many different characters and action like adventure film book of all time. It's also like great like spiritual mystical book. It's it's the greatest self-help book of all time.
This is what drew me to it. I heard someone speak and they were like, if you apply the Bible to your own life, then you're going to be very fulfilled.
People spend thousands on going on these courses and these like talks, and they'll buy. I know people who religiously buy self-help book after self-help book after self-help book. Yeah, by unknown authors, by someone that was recommended on a podcast or by a friend that's got however many sales. There is a book that's over 2,000 years old that has been so successful that it has gone around the world countless times, that has transformed people's lives for thousands of years. So it's literally the most successful and helpful book of all time. Regardless of what you think about the person called Jesus and how real you believe it to be or not, is obviously the proof's in the pudding. So give it a go. Why not? Makes sense.
As your book recommendation, the Bible.
Good one, really. The best one.
And you said something else before. Was it One or Juan?
Oh, one.
One.
Like
For some reason,
O-N-E.
it sounded like Juan.
I did kind of put a pronunciation on it, but it's O-N-E.
Was that because you were Mexican at the weekend?
Potentially.
Still carrying some of that.
Still Juaning.
Third one is asked by a member of the
Growth experience.
Growth Voyage community.
Growth which?
Growth Voyage.
Voyage.
Because we're going on a voyage.
Voyage.
We're growing.
Through growth.
This one comes in from Richard Newman, who asks, what does love mean to you?
Just general love. Not romantic love. Because there's all different kinds of love, isn't there? There's a love that a mother has for its child. There's a love between friends. There's a love of chocolate, pudding. You know, there's all kinds of different love. And obviously there's romantic love. I think love is giving yourself to something without wanting anything, needing anything in return. Because you care about its well-being. I have given my body and my time to professional wrestling because I love it. And I always wanted something in return, but it wasn't like a guarantee and it wasn't a direct exchange. But I wanted people to be entertained. And I wanted, so that's for them, you know? And I wanted to inspire people or entertain people. I wanted the industry to grow. I wanted it to, other people to, who I'm working with, to learn and to grow. You know, a mother gives to the child because they want to see it grow and it learn and it become great, regardless. You know, and maybe chocolate pudding's a tough one, but love in a relationship again is like you love this person, so you are going to give your time, your money, your effort to make them happy, to make them feel safe, secure, loved, cared for. And it's not because you want them to give you a blowjob.
So
it's something deeper than that.
So in your definition then, there's no such thing as unconditional love. Love is unconditional. By your definition, there's no such thing as unconditional love.
The love is unconditional, and I think love in its truest nature is unconditional.
Got it.
100%. And the greatest, again, example of love is you're talking about God on human form. Regardless if you want to believe it or not, right? We know that historically speaking, Jesus was a real historical person who walked on earth. Any historian who even denies the resurrection will tell you that that is a categorical fact. There's more records that are proven that existed at the time of his being than anyone in history, more than Genghis Khan, more than Julius Caesar, more than Alexander the Great. Like thousands, I think it's like hundreds versions for each of those guys. But for Jesus, like 2,000 plus. So we know that he's a legitimate person. There was definitely a guy who was a teacher who had a bunch of people who he influenced. And he was a teacher of religion. You know, a bunch of people who he influenced, who was prosecuted for such things and was crucified. We know that to be true. Now the rest is, was he God and what did he resurrect? Now, if you're a Christian and you've truly felt that in your heart, it's not just like a logical conclusion I've come to. It's like a full body, full spiritual, deep understanding and knowing. For me personally, and for many other Christians who have encountered Christ. But regardless, wherever you are on that spectrum, even if it's a completely fantastical story, the story itself is the greatest example of love. A man who is God on earth, knows that they are going to prosecute and crucify him. And at a snap of a finger, he could have, I think it was like 70-something legions of angels, the strongest spiritual beings in the galaxy, in the universe, to come down and defend him at the snap of a finger, at the command, at the whisper of the word. They would just scorch the earth. They would do anything, But he didn't say a word. And he walked into, the belly of the beast. He gave himself over to the people who wanted to persecute him. One of his bros, Peter, draws a sword and cuts off the geezer's ear who's trying to get him. And Jesus says, put away your sword. Don't defend me. This is fine. He heals the guy's ear, puts the ear back on. Right, you're good. Don't worry. Fine, just chill. I'm going with them. Goes with them. He lets them beat him to death. Like, he lets them spit on him, punch him, beat him, whip him, lash him. His cuts are so deep that they say that part of his guts are falling out. He carries a cross up a hill. He could have had help. At this point, he could go, do you know what? I'm done. Screw it. He could have fought against it. He could have fought physically. He could have got hundreds of thousands of people to fight for him. He could have had all the angels come fight for him. No, he gets through all of that. Gets there, pins them, lets them put nails through his hands, through his feet, on a cross. Because a sacrifice needed to be made for us. Because we are inherently evil. We are inherently bad. We cannot, even our greatest works are like dirty rags to God. Remember I said that? And we're bound to, by the old law, there's going to be a blood sacrifice to pay for the debt. But there would be no amount of blood that could pay for it. So he gives his own life. He spills his own blood to pay the debt of all of our sins. That is the truest form of love. He gave everything selflessly for you, and not just the person who loves him, because it's easy to do something kind for the person who loves you. Hitler was kind to his wife probably and his kids. You know what I mean? It's easy to be kind. There's nothing special about being kind to someone who's nice to you. That's quite selfish, really. But real love is even the people who hate you, who spit on you and beat you, to still love them and give to them. That you would give your life for them. That's the greatest form of love. Do I think I'm capable of it right now? Probably not. But maybe I could aspire to be something closer to it, as scary as it might seem.
Well, what happens in the next chapter remains to be seen. Whether Tate will, in fact, live up to that prophecy. Will he surrender?
We'll
have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see, guys.
It was a beautiful way to finish this session. Tate, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.